Hey everyone, as I told you in the last video, we would animate the circle along the graph of a function. That's what we are going to do in this video. We will try that our circle moves in a sine pattern. The function I've picked is sine. If you don't know how a sine wave looks like, this is what a sine wave looks like. You can see that along the x-axis you have the angles, and along the y it is the sine value of these angles. And it looks like a sinusoidal wave. So you need to given these angles in the sine function, and you can easily find the y-coordinate. For the sine function, we will use the math module. And we will give in these x and y coordinates as the argument while we draw the circle. So that will put our circle at the required position, and the output motion would look like a sine pattern. Fine. Let's write the program now. I'll import PyGame. I'll write import PyGame. Then I'll initialize it. I'll write PyGame dot init. Then I'll set up the screen. I'll write PyGame dot display dot set mode, and I'll given the screen size to be 1000, 500. I've taken such a large width so that I can see a number of waves, and I can easily observe that sine pattern formed by the ball. Then I'll start my while true loop. I'll get to the game loop. I'll write while true. For events in PyGame dot event dot get, if events dot type equals PyGame dot quit, so I'll check in the condition. I'll call the quit function. Fine. PyGame dot quit, and I'll quit. And then I'll update this. I'll write PyGame dot display dot update. Cool. So this was the basic code. Let's get to the main code now. Since I said I'd be using the math module, I'll write import math. I'll import math. I'll import the math module. Now I should think that from where we will give in the inputs, from where we should find the x coordinate. Y coordinate, we can easily find the y coordinate because that's just the sine function of the x value. So where we will get the x value from, we will get it from the time. Okay, but you might say that if we get the running time of the program, then it will exceed continuously and we won't see our ball once it has passed our screen. For that, I'll use the modulo operator. I'll find the times modulo by 1000. This is how I'll write it. So the getTix method gets me the amount of time for which the program has been running right after initializing PyGame. Otherwise this won't work. If you haven't initialized PyGame, this won't work. Okay, and I'll also divide it by a number. I'll divide it by 3 so that I can get a slower speed. The ball doesn't run away, and I can notice that the ball moves in a sine pattern. Fine. Then let me put this x equal to t. Okay. And for y, I will put it into the sine function. So I'll write math.sine t by 50 into 100 plus 200. Okay, so I've divided it by 50 for the wavelength. So I want to keep shorter wavelength so that I can see many waves and I can easily observe the sine pattern. Now if you increase this, you can increase this to 150, then the wavelength would be increased and you'll see less number of waves. This 100 is for defining the amplitude. If you increase this, the amplitude would increase, and if you decrease this, the amplitude would decrease. 100 defines the amplitude, so 100 is the amplitude of my wave, and I've added it with 200 so that I can see my wave in the middle of the screen and not at some corner. Otherwise the sine wave will overlap with the boundaries. Okay, then I'll fill my screen with some color and I'll draw my circle. Let the screen fill color be pink, and I'll use the draw module to make the circle. So screen is the surface I want to draw on. I'll give it a color. Then x and y are my coordinates, and 10 be the radius of the circle. Then I'll update. I have already written this. So let's run this and see if we observe our circle in a sine pattern. So yeah, I can see my ball or circle moving in a sine pattern. It's very similar to the graph I showed you before. Now if you can't observe it, what you can do is you can rub this line screen.fill just to observe for once the sine pattern of the ball. You can rub in this line screen.fill. I hope you remember we did the same thing while we wanted to draw patterns using our object, using the arrow keys. We wanted to see the trail of our object drawn. Here too, the trail, that is the sine pattern. To see that, you can rub in this line. And now if I run this, you can actually see the sine graph. And so yeah, our ball moves in a sine pattern. Now you can use other functions also like cosine or tangent from the math module. So this is it for this video. Thank you.